Hello and welcome. Today I have a really special card to share with you. My grandma just turned 90 this past weekend, so I had to make her a fabulous floral card in her favorite color to celebrate her special day. So I've pulled out the bold numbers dies from the Greetery to use as my numbers on this card, and I really like this die set. I like the little details on the numbers. I like that it's a fun style, but it can also be very elegant. And I'm going to pair that with the Happy Birthday to You sentiment from the More Sentiments Glimmer plate from Spellbinders. And if you don't have a hot foil machine or you're not interested in it, the Greetery also has the Digit Sentiments stamp set that goes really well with these numbers. You have a lot of number sentiments like for graduations, birthdays, I think anniversaries on there as well. If not, you can make it work. But it's a really good alternative if you don't have number sentiments and you don't want to foil. And then the flowers that I'm going to be using today is the Club Blooms die set from Spellbinders. I love this die set. I think this might only be the second time I've used it, but I love it. It's beautiful. I love the rounded shapes to the petals. There's just something about it for me. And because I like options, I also pulled out the Wreath Builder die set. This was released, I think, a year ago. But it's another good alternative for more flowers in different sizes and leaves and stuff like that. So before getting into the crafting today, I really wanted to do a little bit of a cardstock comparison for you. I recently picked up some cardstocks from the Stamp Market, and before purchasing, I was hoping to find a blog post or a video comparing cardstocks because, as you see, I have the full line of Concord and Ninth colors, but ever since they released them, I've been a little bit greedy for more. So I picked up a handful of colors from the Stamp Market, starting off with Salmon here. And Salmon, it's unique. It's pinky, but also a little bit peachy. But comparing this to the peaches and pinks in Concord and Ninth's line, it's very unique. Like it pulls, I don't know, it's a very unique color. And then same with peach. Peach is another, good peachy color, but if I compare this to the oranges and peaches in Concord and Ninth, it's different from their oranges. It's sort of similar to grapefruit there, but not quite. It's a little bit different. And then comparing that to sorbet, it's unique from that. So it's a good kind of filler color, I guess, to have a good addition. Since it's fairly unique. And that was my goal when picking these colors, is I was trying to pick colors that were unique. And as you'll see, most of them pretty much are. Like these four here, these are matcha, sage, fern, and forest. And my apologies for my bad swatches. I do not have a label maker, so this is how I'm making do for now. And here, I'm just going to compare that to sea glass because it's kind of the most similar comparison that I could draw here is sea glass and tide pool. And as you see, it is different. It's more of a green. Both have more green tones than tide pool and sea glass do. So I really like that. I like that as an option for a good minty, sagey leaf. And fern is one step darker in that kind of quad. And as you see, it's very unique. There's nothing like it in Concord and Ninth's lineup. Forest is another one. And this one, it's similar to Evergreen, but I would say that Forest is more of a smoky green. Evergreen has more of a true green pop, where here Forest is kind of a little bit darker, I guess, like a little bit maybe more, a little bit more black or gray to it. There's a smoky feeling or smoky look to it. Next up is Jade, and Jade is pretty similar to Juniper. I knew that coming into it, but Jade has more of a blue-green to it. And comparing it to Juniper, Juniper looks a little bit more green. And this next one, Pacific, is very similar to Peacock, but I think it's a little bit lighter, a hint lighter. So if you really wanted to, you could skip on this one since it's pretty similar if you were interested in it. But I like it because it's a little different. And the same goes with Navy as well. Navy is very similar to Midnight, but I feel like it's almost a smidge lighter. But I don't have any regrets in choosing these colors, even though they're sort of similar, because they are still slightly different. And then last up here, I have Orchid. And I like orchid because it's kind of a nice step from lilac to fig. It's a nice buddy color, I guess, to fig you would call it. So I like having that option in my stash. So off screen, I die cut some flowers out of grape soda, orchid, ballet slipper, briar rose, and I got my flower centers out of sunflower and honeycomb, and my greenery pieces out of lemongrass and avocado. And I'm also pulling out my champagne glimmer foil because I'm going to hot foil my sentiment here on the eggplant cardstock. And I did choose to foil on eggplant because Giannis Makula, recently she put out a video, and I'll link to it here. She put out a video about using dark backgrounds and how they can be super impactful. And I was really inspired by her video, so I wanted to give that a go today. But I chose eggplant because purple is my grandma's favorite color, and I just had to, make this card really, really special for her because, it's awesome to celebrate a 90th birthday. It's really exciting, so I wanted to make this a really special card for her. So I'm using the hinge method here. I've taped my foil plate onto the cardstock using some mint tape since that was all I had on hand. My Easy C has walked around the house a bit, so I put that hinge there, snuck my foil underneath, and kind of closed my hinge. And with my glimmer ready to go, I popped that onto the surface, put my shim and my spacer pad on it, and hit the timer. And once the timer was done, I pulled it off the platform there, and I'm going to slowly roll it through my Platinum 6. And I have this at the true speed here so you could see how slow I do run it through, because I know everybody says that's, essential. You don't want to run something too fast. So, and here we go. We're going to do a peel and reveal. Well, not a great peel, but there's the reveal. So the foiling looks really good. My cardstock did get a little kind of warped. So for lack of anything heavier than my Misty, I'm just popping my Misty on top of that for now, just to kind of hopefully get that to flatten out. And I'm going to die cut the 90 out of some matte gold cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. So I'm going to die cut one layer out of the matte gold, and then I'm also going to die cut, I believe it's an additional, 3 out of white cardstock just to build up some dimension. I love the little details that die set brings to the numbers. I think it's really nice. So I'm just going to stack up those die cuts, adhering them with some liquid glue. And I'm just kind of getting an idea here of how I'm going to want to build things. So to make life a little bit easier, I have my grip mat on my glass mat here, and I'm just going to put that eggplant cardstock on it, just so that it will help keep the paper flat, but it also will make things easier kind of figuring out placements and building stuff up. So I'm popping those numbers back in place. And now I'm just going to assemble my flowers with some liquid glue. In some cases, you definitely could use foam squares or whatever type of foam you have, or even additional cardstock layers, but I just decided to use glue here since this would be going through the mail. And I wasn't sure if I wanted my large flowers to be both lilac or lilac and grape soda, but I decided on 2 layers of lilac because I really liked how that looked. These flowers kind of remind me of zinnias, like these ones specifically, especially when you layer them. But yeah, this is my favorite flower out of the bunch, I think, followed by that orchid colored one up at the upper right. So I'm building those up and figuring out my flower centers. And then I ended up putting this flower together. I was trying to decide if I wanted the inside to be ballet slipper and the outside to be briar rose, since that would kind of give it like a little bit of a shading detail. But in the end, I ended up doing briar rose for both the inside of the petal and the outside petal, but I ended up not using this flower, so it's probably not that important that I'm showing it to you, but just to show you some options. And when I do assemble this flower specifically, I do like to put a little bit of a cardstock strip there just to allow a little bit of stability when you glue the upper petal on it because it will kind of bow, at least in the past when I've done this without having these little cardstock strips. I have gotten a little bit of bowing, but I just did this with hopes of kind of lessening that. So I'm just gonna pop those in place. All right, and I've got that stuck down and I'm ready to move on. And so now I'm just kind of deciding on my flower centers here, just getting a good look at everything that I have, trying to figure out what looks best. So for the lilac flowers, I decided on using sunflower as the outer ring and honeycomb as the true flower center, I guess. And then the orchid flowers, I chose sunflower on top with the inner layer of honeycomb. And then I'm just kind of flip-flopping things so that there's a variety and things aren't too similar, even though that doesn't really matter here, but I just was playing around having fun with it. And then those small flowers on the kind of upper left there, those are from that Wreath Builder die set. And so they have a different flower center. It's a little bit different. So I'm gonna put some music on and speed this part up. I wanted to include how I kind of arrange my flowers and stuff and just let you see the whole process because I don't really have a way to explain it or describe it. A lot of what I do is just kind of fussing around with placements until things feel right. So I'm just gonna include everything in here and I'm gonna speed it up and play some music, and if you want to skip it, go right ahead. one thing that I did want to call out here, now that I have my arrangement figured out, I tend to try and build the composition so that your focal points, so in this case it would be those lilac flowers, because those are the biggest, they call the most attention here. But what I try to do is, you want your eye to naturally progress down the page. So I try to build like a Z or a little zigzag. Basically, you want, at least how I do it, you want your eyes to kind of pinball down the page. So I have that one, the one lilac flower at the top right, which comes down to the lilac flower kind of in the middle left. And then down on the other corner there, I have that little side profile lilac flower. So that kind of creates, you know, a little sort of triangle in that case. And I kind of did the same thing with the grape soda flowers. I have the one at the top left there, then the one above the 90, and then the one on the lower kind of right. And then I kind of did the same using the little briar rose flowers or the orchid flowers. It just kind of allows your eye to naturally progress. And I also like to mix up my greenery too, so that things aren't, you know, all too much of one color, and there's, you know, a fun amount of contrast and all that. But yeah, that's just how I kind of like to build my arrangements, but really, it kind of just depends on each card or each project. It's going to be different no matter what I do. But that's just kind of the general rule that I like to follow. So with this, how I like it, I'm going to glue it down, but I'm going to save you the pain of watching that, and I'm going to skip forward on that. But what I do end up doing is everything that has a leaf, so all the leaves and the flowers that don't have leaves, so like the little briar rose, the lilac, ballet slipper at the top of the page, all of those are going to be just glued down, because like I've done in past cards, I'm going to build up dimension. So everything that doesn't have a leaf is going to be glued flat to the card front, and then all of the leaves will be glued down. But from there, I'm going to build up the dimension where some of the flowers are going to be popped up on thin foam squares and some on thick. And what I end up doing is the bottom grape soda flower, that's going to be thin foam squares. The large purples are going to be on thick. And then the other flowers, there's a small grape soda, the medium grape soda, and the orchid flower, those are all going to be on thin foam squares. So yeah, I'm just kind of mixing that dimension up a little bit just to keep things interesting and really build that up, because it's really nice with that, the dimension on the 90 with all the layers underneath it. So with that done, I decided to really finish this card off with some gems. I've never used gems before, but I feel like I love them. I love that they give you, you know, a nice sparkle and a lift to them, but they're not as large as pearls. The loft to them isn't as great as pearls can be, and I wanted something a little bit lower profile here since this was going through the mail. In the way that it worked out, it's pretty much the same height of all my flowers, so it worked out really well. But these are from the Ghostly Parade gem or sequin mix from Lucy's Cards. This is actually a Halloween mix, but this is the only mix at the time that had gems, that I had in my stash that had gems. So I pulled it out, and luckily there is a kind of purple iridescent duochrome looking gem that worked on this card. So I just kind of put the gems in places where I thought a little bit of shine would be nice. I don't really have like a method for the madness here. I just kind of squeezed them in. And once I was happy with that arrangement, I just glued them down. And so sorry, my head gets in the way here. But I think, let me see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12. There might be 15 gems on here, which might be a little bit overkill, but I feel like the balance, it just felt really, really balanced. Things felt natural and right, so I just went with it. And I mean, we're celebrating a 90th birthday, so I don't think having too many gems is going to ruin that celebration. So I think if anything, it's going to make this card even more special. So I'm just gluing those down really quick. with that completed, I'm just grabbing a Hero Arts top folding note card that I'm gonna glue this card front, or this, that I'm gonna glue this panel on. I absolutely love it, and I know my grandma does too. It's her favorite color. It's just such a fun birthday card. I love it. I love the shine. I love all the purples and the way that things play together, the little foil sentiment there, and the 90. I love those numbers. They are honestly my favorite. But yeah, that wraps up this card. It was a labor of love, and I think it's a really great, well-balanced, fun birthday card. But in the time that it took me to get this video edited, I ended up creating 2 more cards that were kind of inspired by my grandma's for my friend. She wanted me to create a birthday card for her sister turning 30 with the theme of pearl, and a birthday card for her sister turning 35 with the theme of emerald. And this is my take on that. I used the same numbers dies from the greetery, I used a hello for the 30th birthday card, and I used the same hot foil plate for the 35th birthday card. I'm really happy with how these cards turned out, and I included a inside stamped sentiment that I pulled from a Pink Fresh Studio stamp set. It's my favorite for the inside of birthday cards. I'm really happy with how these cards turned out. They're both very beautiful. I did the same where I added the bigger flowers up on differing dimensions, some on thick foam, some on thin, and I used a lot of little gems here and there and pearls to make things special and shiny. And I can't wait for these to get to their recipient. I'm sure they're going to love them just as much as I do. And I will have all this information written up on my blog since I didn't film these cards, but I'll have everything included and linked so that if you like what you see, you can pick it up. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more.